in occupied territory on the far left coast. You're listening to On the Move with Mack Worley III.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, patriots and preppers, and members of the Mack Pack. I'm Mack Worley III, and this is On the Move, the show that attempts to inspire you to stand up for your rights. The date is July 13th, 2014, and we have a really good show in store for you as usual. Today we will have our guest on at around 5:20 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's 8:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be joined by special guest and chair of the Libertarian Party of Sacramento County, Cindy Biondi Gobrecht. We're going to be talking about her book, Libertarian Philosophies, and much more. So feel free to call in if you guys have anything you want to add to that conversation. Like I said, we're going to be taking your listener calls and reading your emails, so feel free to participate. We're going to be allowing anything on the table, so whatever comes our way, any conversations that you would like to discuss, feel free to call in with your own topics. If you'd like to join the conversation today, please give us a call at 619-924-0986. Again, that's 619-924-0986. The Mack Pack phone lines are open. You can also email the show at talk@onthemoveshow.com. You can also check us out at our website, onthemoveshow.com, here at blogtalkradio.com/onthemoveshow. Don't forget to follow us on here so you can stay up to date with all the shows that we have coming out. And you can like us on Facebook, facebook.com/onthemoveshow. Subscribe to us on youtube.com/onthemoveshow. And follow us at twitter.com/onthemoveshow. So, I have to tell you all, I have missed you guys. It has been a crazy week. We've released a new video this week, several videos this week, but we have an audio here for one video in particular that I would like to play for you guys. It's something that we just did, and it's a new thing that we're doing now. We're going around, and we're going to basically ask a mix of pop culture and current event trivia to people, and see what they know, what people are paying attention to. So I have a clip here. This is a segment that I'm doing for the Johnny Rocket Launchpad. Feel free to check them out. Great people, JohnnyRocketLaunchpad.com. And I'm going to be on their show every week with a new one of these segments. So here's the first clip.
Welcome to On the Move.
Hey everybody, this is Mack with On the Move. Today we're out in the park asking questions for the Johnny Rocket Launchpad. And we're going to see what people say. It's going to be pop culture and current events questions. So here we go. Are you familiar with the singer Beyonce? Okay, who is she married to?
Jay-Z.
That's correct. All right, finish this sentence. If you like your health care, you can...
I don't know.
You know who the singer Beyonce is, right?
I'm aware of her, yeah.
Do you know who she's married to?
Jay-Z? All right.
Easy one, right? There you go.
You're building up my confidence, right?
Finish this sentence. If you like your health care, you can...
Gosh, I don't know.
Do you know who Beyonce is?
Yes.
Do you know who she's married to?
Yes. Jay-Z.
Finish this sentence. If you like your health care, you can...
If you like your health care?
If you like your health care, you can what? You know who the singer Beyonce is?
Yes.
Okay. Who is she married to?
Jay-Z.
Jay-Z, yeah.
Jay-Z.
Okay. Finish this sentence. If you like your health care, you can...
Do your health care. I don't know. I'm not. If it's local, I'm not from here.
We're from Kentucky.
All right, you guys know who Beyonce is, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Who is she married to?
Jay-Z.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's right. You guys got it. Good job. Finish this sentence. If you like your health care, you can...
Bye. I don't know.
Keep it.
That's it? Who said that?
Me.
You said that?
Yes. Like, that's not my quote. No.
Do you know who said the quote?
Barack Obama.
There you go. You got it. Good job. All right. Are you familiar with singer Beyonce?
Yeah, actually, I was listening to her today at the gym.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
And who is she married to?
Jay-Z.
Jay-Z.
Yeah, you know.
All right. Finish this sentence. If you like your health care, you can...
I have no idea.
Not afford it anymore. Who is Beyonce married to?
I don't know.
Do you know who Beyonce is?
I know who Beyonce is.
Okay, it's Jay-Z.
Oh, Jay-Z. Okay, that was going to be my guess. All right.
All right, finish this sentence. If you like your health care, you can...
Always buy your health care.
So, yeah, I do know her, but I'm not really into that. I'm more like a punk rocker, so... Yeah, I know who Beyonce is.
Do you know who she's married to?
No.
Finish this sentence. If you like your health care, you can...
Take the health care.
So you know who singer Beyonce is?
Yes.
Who is she married to?
Beyonce married to Jay-Z.
That's correct. Finish this sentence. If you like your health care, you can...
Go get free insurance right now and get on it before you get taxed for not doing it.
Who's Beyonce married to?
Jay-Z.
Okay, good answer.
Right?
That's right. That's correct. All right.
I feel good about myself. Thank you.
And finish this sentence. If you like your health care, you can...
Have good health care.
You know who singer Beyonce is?
Yes, I do.
Okay, who is she married to?
Jay-Z. Yeah.
You nailed it. All right. Finish this sentence. If you like your health care, you can...
Pay for it, I guess, right now.
You know who singer Beyonce is, right?
Yeah, I know who Beyonce is.
Who is she married to?
Jay-Z.
You got it. Good job. Finish this sentence. If you like your health care, you can...
Oh, no. I don't know.
Are you familiar with the singer Beyonce?
Yes.
Who is she married to?
I can't tell you. I don't know for sure.
It's Jay-Z.
Okay.
All right. Finish this sentence. If you like your health care, you can...
If you like your health care, stay working.
All right, so that's the video. We have more of this, much more of this to come. Several different other questions, and stay tuned for more videos like that. You know, I want to comment on that for a moment, though. To me, it's very upsetting when you see the state of the country. People aren't paying attention to it, and they're paying more attention to who Beyonce is married to than what's going on in our country right now. And I've often asked, how can this president get elected again after everything he's done? How could he have gotten elected again? And this is why. This stuff right here, the low information voters out there not paying attention. And you're going to be shocked at some of the other stuff that we have on here. We've already filmed it. We're going to release it every week. But anyway, stay tuned. Don't forget to check us out at youtube.com/OnTheMoveShow. You can subscribe to us for more videos like that. And stay tuned because there's a lot more to come. And as you guys know, this has been a very busy week for us. We've released the video of my unlawful arrest. Since last week, we went viral, basically. The video was picked up by Infowars.com. It was picked up by TeaParty.org, the Free Thought Project. I was also interviewed on the Lars Larson Show on Friday. And last I checked, this video had about 255,000 views. So we're talking 250,000 people have seen the video. Now, I'm sure, as you guys know, I've been getting a lot of support, and I've been getting people on both sides. The anti-gunners and the people who are very, very supportive. And I just want to say thanks for everybody. I'm amazed at the outpouring of support, first of all, from everybody that we've gotten. The Vancouver Police Department, they actually, and this is actually kind of funny, guys, and I got to thank you guys. The Vancouver Police Department, they disabled their Write a Review feature on their Facebook page because of all the negative reviews that they've been receiving. So we had on there at one point, there was about 100, I think there was over 100 one-star reviews the last time I saw. They were rated at 1.7 out of 5 stars. And before all of this, they had a 5-star rating before everyone spoke out. So I think it's important that we all talk about this for a moment. And, one thing I would like to say is that we saw a public department, the police department, they actually censored people, all right? When the public saw what the police department was doing, the public was outraged, and they spoke out about it on social media. And what does the police department do? They disable the ability for people to review them. They mark your comments as spam, and they delete them. They silence your voices. That's what they did. They silenced you. And they only want reviews if it's on their side. They were fine having the review process there when people were giving them 5-star reviews. They only want your opinion to be heard as long as it's not against them. This is a government agency. They work for taxpayers, and they're censoring you. This isn't a private company. This isn't an individual. This is the government. And as a good friend of mine, Dan Sandini of the Daylight Disinfectant, always says, the first thing that the fascists do is shut down free speech. I want to thank each and every one of you for being supportive. And, I especially want to thank everyone who's actually given to the donation fund that we have. It's at onthemoveshow.com/donate. If you want to get involved, you can donate there. That will go toward helping me, continue my battle and keep fighting. And we're just going to keep swinging, guys. I'm dug in my foxhole, and I'm not going to give up this fight. So I just want to say thank you to everybody who's done that. Keep pushing the story out there. Help us get the word out, and don't let them silence your voice. Show them that you will not be silenced. And right now we have a caller on the line. They want to talk about uninformed people and some border issues. So here we go. We got Parker on the line. Hey, Parker, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
What's on your mind?
So I was just calling when you were talking about how, these people being uneducated and whatnot, not understanding what's going on. A lot of these people, I feel like, don't realize how big of an issue this border crisis is going on right now. And, what they're saying is they pulled off 70% of the border agents off the border, and they're saying that they're handling administrative paperwork needed to deal with the unfolding humanitarian crisis. And I'm reading this off 10,000 of unaccompanied minors flooding across the U.S.-Mexico border. And so this is opening up holes for people to just slide right through, while we're also spending all these taxpayers' money on supporting them, giving them vaccines and showers and all this and that. And I feel like, yeah, there are people fighting against that, but at the same time, I'd say a majority of the United States doesn't realize how big of an issue this actually is. And I'd like to hear what you think about it.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, thanks for your call, Parker. I definitely want to talk about that. So we're going to actually break this down a lot in detail, and I want to go over a lot of the arguments of what the left is basically talking about. But one issue I see right now, it's you're paying attention to the left hand, but what is the right hand doing? So right now we see that the border has an influx of people just pouring in, and we're basically distracted now with what's going on this side. So what's happening? What is coming into this country? Who is coming into this country that we don't know about? There's areas of the border now that are completely wide open. And as far as people being uninformed about it, you're absolutely correct. A lot of people aren't paying attention to this. And I would have to argue here that this is probably the fault of this administration. If you noticed, first of all, language is important. I think we would all agree that the way that we word things is very important. And obviously, public relations officers, they know this more than anyone. So we see now that the Obama administration, now they're no longer referring to this as a crisis. This is a situation. So they say it's a situation at the border, which means that it's something that they can deal with later and put off, and we don't have to worry about it. Meanwhile, there is a humanitarian crisis, yes. People are coming over, and those people, need food, they need water, they need health care, things like that. But let me ask everyone here, are we responsible for people who break the law? Are we responsible for feeding, clothing, giving them medical care who break the law? Some would argue yes, some would argue no. My position is that we take care of them right now and we send them back. We send them back to where they came from. At that point, our responsibility is over. Once we make sure that they are out of danger and that they're not starving, they're not dehydrated, and that they're safe and healthy, we ship them home. That's my opinion. So we're going to talk a whole lot more about this in a little bit, but I really want to thank Parker for calling in. Stay tuned because we're going to actually cover this in a deep dive here in the Mack pack. In the Mack attack. So don't go anywhere, guys. But right now, I want to talk to you guys about what's going on this show. We have a something special that we're doing, and I'm really excited about it. So today we're doing a ticket giveaway to Glenn Beck's We Will Not Conform. It's an live interactive event that's going to be happening at movie theaters nationwide. There's 680 movie theaters that this will actually be screened at. So it's going to be everywhere in the country. And we're giving away tickets for you guys. We got some free tickets, and stay tuned for how to actually get your free tickets on that. We have 4 tickets available. We'll be giving 2 winners 2 tickets each. So anyway, we have a promo here for We Will Not Conform, the event, and I'm going to go ahead and play it for you so you guys can hear it for yourself.
We only get a few opportunities in life to make a real difference by standing up for what we believe in. The next one is coming on July 22nd. Glenn Beck's We Will Not Conform is a live interactive event that will mark the beginning of the end for Common Core. Airing live in over 680 movie theaters around the country, this will be a night to bring everyone together with a singular goal in mind, making Common Core history. Visit WeWillNotConform.com for details and to find a theater near you.
All right, so we're going to be giving away those tickets. So stay tuned for information on how to get your free tickets to that event. And anyway, we're going to move into the first segment of today's show, and we like to call this segment This Day in History.
This Day in History.
Because people have got to know whether or not their president's a crook. Well, I'm not a crook.
Yesterday, what country can do for you.
Mr. Gorbachev tear down this wall.
A date which will live in infamy.
We shall fight in the field and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender.
All right, on this day in history, according to Yahoo News, on July 13th in 1787, the Congress of the Confederation adopted the Northwest Ordinance, which established a government in the Northwest Territory, an area corresponding to the present-day Midwest and Upper Midwest. In 1793, the French revolutionary writer Jean-Paul Marat was stabbed to death in his bath by Charlotte Corday, who was executed 4 days later. In 1863, deadly rioting against the Civil War military draft erupted in New York City. The insurrection was put down 3 days later. In 1923, a sign consisting of 50-foot-tall letters spelling out Hollywoodland was dedicated in the Hollywood Hills to promote a subdivision. The last 4 letters were removed in 1949. In 1960, John F. Kennedy won the Democratic presidential nomination on the first ballot at the President's Convention in Los Angeles. In 1972, George McGovern received the Democratic presidential nomination at the party's convention in Miami Beach. In 1973, former President aide Alexander P. Butterfield revealed to Senate Watergate Committee staff members the existence of President Richard Nixon's secret White House taping system. Butterfield's public revelation came 3 days later. In 1974, the Senate Watergate Committee proposed sweeping reforms in an effort to prevent another Watergate scandal. So, you know, I always like talking about Watergate. I just want to mention this for a second. Watergate was a big deal in the 70s, and you know, it wasn't what got Richard Nixon in trouble that was on the tapes, but it was what was deleted that was on the tapes that got this man in trouble. So this is why we see everything nowadays that has some kind of, gate. You got Bridgegate, Benghazi Gate, all the IRS Gate. All these things have gate at the end of it, and it all came from Watergate. And, you know, these kind of sweeping reforms that were done in 1974 to prevent another Watergate scandal, have they helped? Have they stopped us from seeing government corruption? No. We got the IRS. You know, they're targeting political conservatives. And, I mean, how much of an effect and secondary effect did that have on the election of Barack Obama? Who knows? We'll never know. And, you know, we see Benghazi, the NSA spying, you name it. There are still tons of scandals out there right now. And really, we're being overwhelmed. And we're going to get to my thoughts on us being overwhelmed a little later in the show as well. So anyway, we're moving on today. If you want to join the conversation, give us a call. The number to the show is 619-924-0986, or you can email the show at talk@onthemoveshow.com. And at this point, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we get back, we're going to have Cindy on the line. Our guest, she's the Libertarian Party chair for Sacramento County. So anyway, when we get back, we'll have more with her, so don't go anywhere.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/onthemoveshow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
And we're back. I appreciate you all sticking with us. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and bring our guest on the line. Her name is Cindy Biondi Gobrecht. And like I said, she is the chair of the Libertarian Party of Sacramento County. She also has a book. We're going to be discussing that in great detail today. Hey, Cindy, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Mack. How are you?
I'm doing well. I already asked you that. So I really appreciate you coming on the show here. So first things first.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, well, it's our pleasure, absolutely. So I want to get to your book first and foremost here. I want to talk about, first of all, what is it about? What made you write it? Can you give us some insight into that?
Yeah, actually, in the process of writing the book, I became a libertarian. So what happened is I wrote a book previously sort of as an outreach to Twilight fans, and I'm a Christian, so I wanted to reach them with my faith. And in the process of writing that, I became aware of the Hunger Games because it was a similar fan base and similar demographics, and so I decided to go see the Hunger Games and see what the uproar was all about. And I was really disturbed by the Hunger Games. I thought it was kind of a sad, depressing story, and I couldn't figure out why so many teenagers and young adults were so in love with it. And so sort of, I guess, in trying to understand it, I started writing a book to hopefully give them some hope, because in my perception was the fact that they liked this very dark story was that they didn't have a lot of hope for their life and for the culture that we live in. And I wanted to give them hope. So I started writing the book, and in the process of that, I created a fan page on Facebook. And I noticed one of my friends, Michael Pickens, had a lot of libertarian quotes that seemed very fitting with the Hunger Games theme, and I was reposting them on my Hunger Games fan page. And little by little, I got a little more intrigued with what the Libertarian Party was all about, and attended a few events, and ended up actually becoming a libertarian. And of course, as you look at my book, it's sort of a primer of the libertarian mindset, and also hopefully will help engage some of these fans to getting politically active as well.
Yes, ma'am. And for our listeners out there, we have the book actually posted in our Amazon affiliate store. It's on OnTheMoveShow.com, or you can just go to Amazon.com and find it there. What's the name of your book, Cindy?
It's called Blessed Are They That Hunger.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so I'd really, I listened to your interview on the Blue Republican, and I'm really fascinated at this transition between being a staunch Republican and then moving to being a libertarian. And for me, I had a similar kind of transition myself. The more I talk about liberty and I really think about these issues, the more libertarian I consider myself. I consider myself a conservative libertarian, be it that I disagree on some issues, but the vast majority, I have to agree with the Libertarian Party. So I'm curious about this transition that you had. Can you talk about your past as far as your affiliation with the Republican Party, and then what actually drove you to switch?
Yes, I became a Republican mainly because my father was a Republican, and he was pretty politically astute, and he had some good arguments for being a Republican. He was a small business owner, so historically the Republican Party has been pro-business. I'd say now they're more pro-crony corporatism versus small business, but initially they were probably the party for business owners in general. And, of course, I've lived a few years, so I was actually an adult during the Reagan administration, so we had some positive things happen in the Republican Party in those years, and really I'd say up until, the Bush era, I was pretty happy with the Republican Party. And now that with the Bush administration, I got a little more disillusioned with our involvement with the Iraqi conflict. That really disturbed me. I knew that the whole weapons of mass destruction thing seemed pretty phony, and I saw that again as a way of the government sort of messing with the oil industry, and I've always felt it had more to do with money than really some kind of danger to our country. And so that's when I began to be a little disillusioned. And then I think through when McCain was running, and I don't know, these different political figures that were portraying this really negative image of Christianity as being very hateful, and then the whole Republican mindset seemed to be very much of hate mongers and warmongers, and I just didn't really want to be associated with that anymore. And I also saw that as setting us up for potentially losing some of those freedoms, because it could be seen as bullying, and it could be seen as dangerous to the rest of the American culture that didn't abide by those values and those beliefs. So that's when I'd been disillusioned for a few years, and then when I found the Libertarian Party, they were saying what I wanted to hear. They were saying a return to the Constitution, a return to really an America where everybody has a say. I don't expect everybody to believe the way that I believe or live their life the way that I live my life. And that was the foundation of our country, was the freedom to be able to live out your life based on your personal values and not on any values that were being imposed on you. So that's where I made that switch and made that transition into a party that I felt fully embraced the values that I believed, and allowed me to have my own values.
And as far as how your faith actually it relates to your political affiliation, some people think that Christians are hate mongers for some reason, and Christians. First of all, and just to be clear, I'm not really religious. I'm agnostic, so I don't necessarily not believe, but I don't necessarily believe. So for me, I talk to a lot of Christians, especially conservatives, and it seems like conservatives just want to leave people alone in a lot of ways, but then other ways they don't, though. For example, the banning of gay marriage, for example. What are your thoughts in relation to that, with your political party and in terms of your religious beliefs?
Well, I think government needs out of marriage altogether, personally. I actually have a blog about it called, it's a Beatles song. I can't think of it now. Oh, Can't Buy Me Love. That's what it is. Oh, yeah. I have a blog called Can't Buy Me Love. And the argument is that the real root of the gay marriage debate has more to do with the way the government is unfairly taxing couples. That, for instance, and really that's what DOMA is based on. The reason why DOMA went to the Supreme Court was based on an inheritance tax. And then if you look at the way that married couples have better tax breaks, that again is it's an unfair advantage based on somebody's personal choices that is costing them money from the government. they're being robbed because of these unfair tax laws, and that's really the root of it. And then if you look even further into the structure of our social welfare system, that people that are on social welfare actually have more incentives to stay unmarried. So if you look into that, 80% of families on social welfare are not married, so that they can take advantage of more perks. So again, it's the hardworking Americans that are being unfairly taxed, so that a gay couple is forced to fight for marriage, so that they don't have the government in their pockets as much. So that's the way I view it. That's what I think is the real root of the problem. And personally, I believe marriage is a religious ritual, like communion, like baptism, and I don't want the government involved with that either.
Yes,
in fact, I actually wrote a blog that will be going on Kathy Rosenowitz's site, where I actually have found that there's a growing trend among Christians that they are choosing not to legally marry because they don't want the government involved with their marriage either. So this is a whole new trend that's actually happening among Christians, that they're doing a significant religious ritual to sanctify their marriage. They're having it witnessed by their family and friends, but they are not legalizing it.
Yes, ma'am.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, well, I think that's actually a good thing, actually. Yeah, in my opinion, the government should not be involved in marriage. It is most definitely always been a religious ceremony, and it's not a government ceremony. The government, right. It's not like a retirement ceremony or something like that. It's a religious ceremony where people are getting married, in front of their God, whoever God it is, no matter the religion. Even back as far as paganism, they were getting married in like hand tying ceremonies and things like that, in front of their gods that they worship. So I think that the government has no place in that. With that said, though, I don't think that churches should be forced to marry, gay couples if those churches believe that that's a sin. But I think if a church allows, gay marriage in their church and they want to marry those people, I think that they should be allowed. But I think that the government just needs to get out of the marriage business entirely. Why do we have to get licensed to go marry each other? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, and I think I reference in my piece, I believe the one about the Christians that aren't getting married, that there's actually a eugenic base to our government being involved with marriage, that it was sort of like an ethnic cleansing. I don't know if you have heard that, or you might want to look up Jeffrey Tucker's blog about that, but that initially, of course, if you look back to the Civil War era, that of course the blacks were not legally allowed to get married, and and then there were other interracial marriages that had been illegal. So there's a whole argument that can be made for government involvement in marriage as a form of eugenics too. So of course that is a whole nother scary argument about government involvement in our lives.
And that's an argument for tyranny, to allow the government to decide who can get married, what marriages are legitimate, which ones aren't. And you're absolutely right that I'm a student of history. I'm not perfect when it comes to these things, but from my memory, you're exactly right that they initially, this is back when they were actually trying to keep segregation and keep whites from marrying blacks and vice versa, and eugenics. Just so for the audience out there, eugenics is basically controlling the genetics of your society. So the government got involved to try to make it illegal for blacks to marry whites and vice versa. And these are, this is tyranny. That is just straight up tyranny. And anybody in favor of the government being involved in the marriage business is in favor of this kind of thing. This is the history behind it. There's really no argument for it other than just looking at the history. I mean, that right there is the easiest way to get people to stop supporting the government being involved in marriage. Now, as far as tax breaks and things like that, we're talking about a complicated tax system that, even lawyers, it takes years for them to know, and a lot of them don't even know the whole thing. They have a section of it that they specialize in. I think, and maybe I'm wrong here. Well, actually, what do you think, Cindy, as far as revising the tax system to where they're not even in it at all? There's no tax breaks for being married, and I think we just need an overhaul of the system totally to begin with. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that the whole income tax system is really hurting our country more than helping it, and it gives people a disincentive to earn income, which is terrible, because we want to be productive, we want to be successful human beings, and the government penalizes us for making money because we have to pay more in taxes. So that's not right. And I recently spent some time with Gary Johnson at the Washington State Libertarian Convention, and he really feels that the right thing to do is just to abolish the whole income tax system and go to a flat retail tax system. And I see that there's a lot of value to that argument, and I know you're going to be talking about what's happening with the immigration issue, and that he views is another solution to the illegal immigration is that if they're living in this country, they're going to have to purchase things, and if they're purchasing things and they're being given a flat federal retail tax on those, then it doesn't matter if they're legal or illegal, the government is going to benefit from that, and then the government will have the money to subsidize whatever needs come up to support these people in our country. So that's another possibility. But yeah, I definitely feel that our tax system is a problem in many ways, and that it definitely needs to be abolished. Ron Paul would say abolish it, And so I think that's probably what needs to happen.
Yes, ma'am.
It's unfair to us as Americans, and that there's better ways to fund our social welfare system, if at all we should have a social welfare system. So that's a whole nother debate.
Exactly. Each one of these things, it leads to the next conversation and the next conversation.
Right.
As far as the gay marriage thing, it's led us to the tax code. I definitely agree with Gary Johnson on this, and I hope he runs in 2016. He's got my vote. If he runs, he has my vote without a doubt. I am excited about Gary Johnson. So the tax code, though, I definitely agree with that whole plan. It eliminates any of these tax loopholes. My only concern with us having some kind of just a use tax, basically a sales tax nationwide, where that's the only way that they get income from, is that if we did that, it would have to be explicitly illegal for them to create some kind of income tax again. Because if they can, they will, and then they'll be taxing us both ways. They will try to do whatever they can to get that money. The government, finds ways to get more money that they don't need at that moment, but they'll find a way to spend it later. So this is my concern with that. But I definitely support the use tax. I definitely support that.
Maybe we need a constitutional amendment. Wasn't it the 17th Amendment that instituted the income tax? I think it was, and so we just need another amendment that will say that they could never ever have one again. So,
yeah, I agree with that. I mean, that's something I would get behind, and we need, I think we need to do this. But again, it does move us to other things like immigration and how that could solve that issue. We have people working in this country illegally, and they're not paying any kind of taxes off of that. But if we had a federal use tax where everything that they bought was being taxed, they would be paying for their own subsidization. I can't say that word right now, but you know what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
They would be subsidizing themselves.
Yeah. So as far as is your book, I wanted to actually mention, we had a comment here in the chat room, and they were talking about how, they actually have read The Hunger Games, and, the second book, for example, they thought it had more hope in it, and it was more about resistance to tyranny. Did you get that from The Hunger Games?
Yeah, I definitely. I mean, that's an aspect of it, and there are a lot of these future dystopic stories that are pretty popular right now, like the Maze Runner and Divergent, and yes, the positive thing is that there is sort of this revolution, this revolt, this something that to change the way it is, but when you read through to the end of the Hunger Games, really ultimately in the end of it, so if that person hasn't read The Mockingjay yet, that they may want to close their ears while I say this.
Yes, spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert, yes. That ultimately the loss is so great, and then ultimately the form of government that you have in the end is you have to wonder if it's any less tyrannical than the one that they had the revolution for. So really, ultimately, is there hope? And because of the devastation, the loss of life, everything that had to happen in the revolution, was it worth it? Ultimately, so I sort of view it as not having any hope, or not much hope, and so that's what my book and my fan page is called Hope for the Hunger Games Fans on Facebook. So I try to give people hope in the sense that we still we don't have a completely totalitarian regime here in America. We still have rights. We still can fight for our freedom, and that don't be hopeless. Engage in politics. Engage in making America better. Engage in your rights as a citizen of the United States, so that we can turn the tide, and that we don't end up like the Hunger Games. And then I also give hope in the sense of, what does the Bible say about these issues, and what is because the Bible is a book about freedom, and I believe I believe Jesus was the greatest libertarian, and so where is the hope in that as well, not just for this life but for eternal life.
Yeah. As far as the book itself, though, can you give us like the cliff notes, like the back of the book synopsis of what it's about, so people can get an idea as to what they'd be reading?
Well, what I do is I take some of the themes from the Hunger Games, and I talk about how they apply to our current culture in America, and then also, like I mentioned, what does the Bible say about them? So I talk about, for instance, the first chapter is called We Hunger for Kindness. So it's about violence in America, and what is contributing to the increase in violence, and can we return to a kinder America? And then I talk about the real Hunger Games that we have going on, which is our war mongering around the world, and how we are slaughtering our own young, bright men and women to these wars, these baseless wars around the world. And I have a daughter who's a Marine, so this is something really close to my heart, too. And then we hunger for freedom, and I talk about how through the increasing amount of laws that we have, that we're losing our freedoms one law at a time. And I write about, my father used to say this back in the 70s. He said, my dad used to say, we are becoming a communist country one law at a time. That's what my dad said. This was in the 70s. What's that?
Your dad's a wise man. He was able to see that coming.
I know, no kidding. Isn't that something? And then I write about actually growing up when I did, it was a freer America. I didn't have curfew laws. I didn't have all these restrictions that young drivers have now. They can't have their friends in their cars and things like that. I mean, we didn't have seatbelt laws when I was a teenager. So, one law at a time, we've lost our freedoms in that respect. And then I talk about, there's a chapter called We Hunger for Justice, and I talk about, the death penalty and that it's racially biased and how there is injustice in America, and that what we need to do to make that change too. And of course, we have so many nonviolent offenders that are serving these horrendously long sentences. Just sort of as an aside, I watched Jersey Boys. I don't know if anybody's seen that, but this was a movie about Frankie Valli and this band in the 60s. And just to see how these young people were treated by the police, and that they only served like a 6-month term, which now for the things that they did, they would probably be in there for life. Mm-hmm. And so just how our legal system has become such an iron fist, and these nonviolent offenders are their lives are being ruined because of that. So anyway, that's kind of a touch on. It kind of goes on and on.
Well, it sounds like a good read. I'm definitely looking forward to picking that up. I think I might buy a copy of it. And it's Blessed Are They That Hunger. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and it's everybody, to the listeners out there, it's Cindy Biondi Gobrecht. You can check her out on our Amazon store. We have it on our shop link on OnTheMoveShow.com, or you can check it out on our on Amazon.com. You can pick it up there as well. Cindy, we're going to take a quick break. Would you mind sticking with us? I'd like to ask a little bit of questions here about what's going on in the Libertarian Party in Sacramento County. Would you mind staying with us for a bit?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Okay, all right. We'll be right back, everybody. It'll be about another minute. Don't go anywhere.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/onthemoveshow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services, from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
And we're back. When we last left, we had Cindy Biondi Gobrecht on the line. She is an author of a new book that's out. It's called Blessed Are They That Hunger, and you can check that out on Amazon.com. And anyway, we have Cindy on the line. She's also a chair for the Libertarian Party in Sacramento County. Cindy, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. I just wanted to basically get an update on what's going on down in your party's chapter and find out what things you guys are working on.
I'm excited to say that we have doubled our membership in the last year, so we are on the grow. We're also converting some Republican candidates to Libertarian candidates, so we're excited about that. And we are doing some local advocacy as well, which has been very exciting. We are involved in the Tennessee Center for Self-Governance. They are training us on how to be more effective in taking back our power as citizens to make changes in the government and to influence our elected officials. So that's been very exciting. We have actually, because of our local group's involvement, one of the assessments, local assessments for the fire department, was actually tabled because 5 of our students spoke at the board meeting, and they did such a great job that they had to table the assessment. So we're involved with that and a few other local events and local other tax assessments. We also were involved with changing the way one of the bonds is being utilized by the local school board so that it's not costing the taxpayer so much money. They are doing it as a pay-as-you-go rather than funding it outright and having to pay all kinds of interest on it, on the loan or the bond. So yeah, we're active, we're involved, and we're making some waves here in Sacramento for the Libertarian Party.
That's really awesome. I'm glad to hear you guys are doing so much down there. So I have a question here from one of our listeners, and they're comparing the situation that's happening in Lacey, Washington, and they wanted to see if this was kind of similar to what you guys are experiencing down there in Sacramento. They ask, why do you think Democrats think we can't manage the budget with the current revenue, and therefore we need more taxes to help pay for schools and transportation? So I kind of want to throw this question at you, and I would imagine that you guys are probably experiencing the same situation down there. There's definitely mismanagement of funds that tends to happen with these government organizations. If you look at, like in the school boards, for instance, one of the things that we are looking at is the need for always using union labor, because the unions require that all of the construction and anything that's done for the schools, because the school is unionized, that all the upkeep of the school properties has to be unionized, and this ends up escalating the price of the work that's being done, which is ridiculous. So it takes out the free market, it takes out the competitive edge, and so that's something that we actually have an independent board here in California that is monitoring the different school districts, and actually this is something new that's been implemented within the last couple of years. There was actually a law passed to have this oversight committee, and so that's helping to make some changes in that. And as you said, instead of increasing the taxation, let's just be wiser with the money that we have, and that much can be accomplished with just utilizing some better spending and better budgeting to meet the needs of the schools. So yeah, I totally agree with that. I'm seeing some positive changes here in California because of the oversight committee and what they're doing. So that might be something for Washington to consider as well, is passing a law that actually requires a separate independent oversight committee to watch how the schools are spending their money. Yes, ma'am.
And so that the citizenry doesn't get overly taxed because they're not being wise stewards of the money they're getting.
Mm-hmm. And I believe it was Reagan that said, I'm going to slaughter this quote, I already know it is, but the government doesn't ask for money that they need, they find ways to spend the money that they have. So this is the basic concept of the inefficiency of government. We can do better, is my opinion. We can find better ways to pay for things without having the government being the one to dole out the money, because ultimately the government, they just end up losing money and they mismanage the money, and then they spend money on things that we didn't need. And I mean, for example, just some fraud, abuse, and waste that happens in the military. I mean, we built billions of dollars worth of buildings in Iraq and Afghanistan, and we were building as we knew we were going to leave. We were continuing to build things, and we just left this stuff over there for everybody else that we left behind. I find it really disturbing how much money is actually wasted if a private company wasted the kind of money that our government does, that private company wouldn't exist anymore, unless, of course, the government bailed them out. So.
Right, exactly.
But anyway,
yeah, true.
I really appreciate you coming on the show today, Cindy. Do you have a website or a Facebook that people can go to get more information about what you guys are doing out there in the Libertarian Party, and as far as you personally for your book and everything?
Yeah, our Facebook is SAC. Well, actually, our website is saclp.org, and that will link you to our Twitter, our Facebook, and information about our events and how to join, and all kinds of information for the Libertarian Party. And I have a blog site, so it's Cindy Biondi Gobrecht at WordPress.com. You can find me there. And then I do have a Facebook page for my new book, Blessed Are They That Hunger, so you can find that too. And if you go to my personal Facebook page, you can link to all my pages on that, and that's under Cindy Biondi Gobrecht or Cindy Gobrecht. So you can find all my pages there too, and all my links to my blog and everything. So I blog about a lot of political issues too, so you may enjoy that. I just recently blogged about, and I also incorporate a lot of popular culture into that. So I talk about what's happening politically, but also how that is reflected in our popular culture, like some of the TV shows like The Walking Dead. I have a blog about that, Fargo, some of these different shows, and also on other movies and such as well.
All right. Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to checking out your blog. Thanks for sharing that with us. I'll definitely be posting anything that I see on there that I liked on my Facebook and everything. Hopefully I can send some people your way. But thank you so much, Cindy. Thanks for coming on the show. It was really awesome to have you. And if you guys have anything that you need to get out as far as what's going on down there in Sacramento County, please feel free to get a hold of me. I'd be happy to talk about it on the show. So.
Okay. Well, thank you, Matt.
All right. Well, thank you, and have a good one. All right. So at this point, we're going to take another commercial break, and when we get back, we're going to talk about this ticket giveaway that we have for the Common Core, or the Stop the Common Core show that's going to be happening, the Glenn Beck event, the We Will Not Conform event. So anyway, don't go anywhere. When we get back, I'm going to tell you guys how you can get your free ticket.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/onthemoveshow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services, from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
And we're back. I appreciate you all sticking with us. So at this point, I want to talk about We Will Not Conform, the Glenn Beck interactive event. And it's going to be, I believe it's at 680 movie theaters nationwide. I mean, this is pretty unbelievable. I mean, this is a big event. It's a live event that everyone can participate while they are in the movie theater. I think this is pretty cool. I'm wondering if this is going to be some kind of new marketing thing that people are going to start doing, and I'm really excited about it. So anyway, we have 4 free tickets. We're going to be giving out 2 tickets to each caller. 2 callers are going to get their tickets. With that said, we have a promo here for it. We're going to go ahead and play it, and here it is.
These desks all work the exact same way. The kids who sit in them do not. On July 22nd, Glenn Beck, Michelle Malkin, and thousands of others will gather to send a simple message to Common Core supporters. We will not conform.
All right. With that said, the Mack Pack lines are open. Light them up, guys. The number to the show is 619-924-0986. The first 2 callers will receive the tickets. Each caller will win 2 tickets to We Will Not Conform in a theater near you. So, with that said, while we're taking your calls, I'm going to take a moment to play a clip that I am really excited about. I played this in the past before, and it's a student that is talking about Common Core, and he talks about how it affects the students, how it affects the teachers, how it affects the schools. So again, light up those lines, everyone. The number to the show is 619-924-0986, and you can get your free ticket to We Will Not Conform.
In a mere 5 minutes, I hope to provide insightful comments about a variety of educational topics. I sincerely hope you disprove the research I've compiled. Here's the history of the Common Core. In 2009, the National Governors Association and the Council of Chief State School Officers partnered with Achieve, Inc., a nonprofit that received millions of funding from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Thus, the initiative seemed to spring from states when in reality it was contrived by an insular group of educational testing executives with only 2 academic content specialists. Neither specialist approved the final standards, and the English consultant Dr. Sandra Stotsky publicly stated she felt the standards left students with an empty skill set, lacking literary knowledge. While educators and administrators were later included in the validation committee and feedback groups, they did not play a role in the actual drafting of the standards. The product is a, quote, rigorous preparation for career and college, yet many educators agree that rigorous is a buzzword. These standards aren't rigorous, just different, designed for an industrial model of school. Nevertheless, Common Core emerged. Keep in mind the specific standards were never voted upon by Congress, the Department of Education, state or local governments, yet their implementation was approved by 49 states and territories. The president essentially bribed states into implementation via Race to the Top, offering $4.35 billion taxpayer dollars to participating states, $500 million of which went to Tennessee. And much like No Child Left Behind, the program promises national testing and a one-size-fits-all education because, hey, it worked really well the first time. While I do admire some aspects of the course, such as fewer standards and an emphasis on application and writing, it's not going to fix our academic deficit. If nothing else, these standards are a glowing conflict of interest, and they lack the research they allegedly received. And most importantly, the standards illustrate a mistrust of teachers, something I believe this county has already felt for a while. I've been fortunate to have incredible educators that open my eyes to the joy of learning, and I love them like my family. I respect them entirely, which is why it frustrates me to review the team and Apex evaluation systems. These subjective anxiety producers do more to damage a teacher's self-esteem than you realize. Erroneous evaluation coupled with strategic compensation presents a punitive model that, as a student, is like watching your teacher jump through flaming hoops to earn a score. Have you forgot the nature of a classroom? A teacher cannot be evaluated without his students. Excuse me, because as a craft, teaching is an interaction. Thus, how can you expect to gauge a teacher's success with no control for students' participation or interest? I stand before you because I care about education, but also because I want to support my teachers. And just as they fought for my academic achievement, so I want to fight for their ability to teach. This relationship is at the heart of instruction. Yet there will never be a system by which it is accurately measured. But I want to take a step back. We can argue the details ad infinitum, yet I observe a much broader issue with education today. Standards-based education is ruining the way we teach and learn. Yes, I've already been told by legislators and administrators, Ethan, that's just the way things work. But why? I'm going to answer that question. It's bureaucratic convenience. It works with nuclear reactors. It works with business models. Why can't it work with students? I mean, how convenient calculating exactly who knows what and who needs what. I mean, why don't we just manufacture robots instead of students? They last longer and they always do what they're told. But education is unlike every other bureaucratic institute in our government. The task of teaching is never quantifiable. If everything I learned in high school is a measurable objective, I haven't learned anything. I'd like to repeat that. If everything I learned in high school is a measurable objective, I have not learned anything. Creativity, appreciation, inquisitiveness, these are impossible to scale, but they're the purpose of education. why our teachers teach, why I choose to learn. And today we find ourselves in a nation that produces workers. Everything is career and college preparation. Somewhere our founding fathers are turning in their graves, pleading, screaming, and trying to say to us that we teach to free minds. We teach to inspire. We teach to equip. The careers will come naturally. I know we're just one city in a huge system that excitedly embraces numbers. But ask any of these teachers, ask any of my peers, and ask yourselves, haven't we gone too far with data? I attended tonight's meetings to share my critiques, but as Benjamin Franklin quipped, any fool can criticize, condemn, and complain, and most fools do. The problems I cite are very real, and I ask only that you hear them out, investigate them, and do not dismiss them as another fool's criticisms. I'll close with a quote of Jane L. Stanford that Dr. McIntyre shared in a recent speech. You have my entire confidence in your ability to do conscientious work to the very best advantage to the students, that they be considered paramount to all and everything else. We're capable of fixing education, and I commit myself to that task. But you cannot ignore me, my teachers, or the truth. We need change, but not Common Core, high-stakes evaluations, or more robots. Thank you.
All right, we have our winners, and I'm going to bring the first one on the line here. We got Chrissy on the line. Hey, Chrissy, you there?
Hey, Mac.
I just want to give you an opportunity here to give us your thoughts on Common Core, and then I'll move you to the screening room so my producer can get your contact info. So what do you think about Common Core?
I'm very much against it. I have a couple of brothers who are teachers, and they do not get what's going on. They say, you don't know what's going on in the school system, you're not in the classes, you don't get it. But how can we expect students to learn at the same exact pace when everybody's unique, everyone's different, and it's not one-size-fits-all education. Everybody needs different things.
Exactly. All right, well, stick with us here. I'm going to move you to the screening room, and my producer's going to get your contact info so we can get you those free tickets, okay? You got 2 tickets coming to you, all right?
All right, thanks, Mac.
All right, thank you. All right, we got our next winner here. His name is Mark, and I'm bringing him on the line. Hey, Mark, are you there?
Hey, Mac, how you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for calling in. So we got your tickets. You are the winner. Like I said, you're our second winner, so you're getting 2 tickets to the We Will Not Conform event in your area. And I'm just curious, what are your thoughts on Common Core?
Well, like Chrissy said, it's pretty much an abomination. It's, Butte, Montana, and New York, kids don't need to learn the same things at the same rate. Teaching to the test is just going to make everybody dumber. And what's really bothers me about it is the way they teach or don't reteach history.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we see a lot of revisionist history in Common Core books. From what I remember, I saw one where they actually changed the wording of the Second Amendment where it said that in a militia you have the right to keep and bear arms. Things like that I find offensive about Common Core. Anyway, Mark, you have 2 tickets coming your way. Don't hang up. We're going to get you in the screening room, and my producer's going to get your contact information so we know where to send the tickets to, okay?
Okay, great. Thanks a lot.
All right, thanks for calling in. All right, guys, so at this point, we are going to enter into the next segment of the show, and we like to call it the Mack Attack. This is actually Ask Mack. So we like to call this next segment Ask Mack, and this is where you guys ask me your questions. So feel free to call in. The number of the show is 619-924-0986. Again, that's 619-924-0986. And we're entering into the Ask Mack segment now.
It's time to ask Mack. You've got a question? He's got the answer. Time to ask Mack. When you got a question, time to ask Mack.
All right, if you have a question for me that you would like me to answer on the air, you can ask it in several ways. You can email us at talk@onthemoveshow.com. You can post your questions on our Facebook page, facebook.com/onthemoveshow. You can tweet us at onthemoveshow. Make sure you include the hashtag AskMack. And, of course, like I said, you can always call us here at 619-924-0986. And I will do my best to answer your question. I'll let you get your say in, and we can have a conversation about it. So, anyway, the first question I have here is from Cindy from Facebook. and she wanted me to comment on basically the amount of housing costs versus the wages and ability to get living wages. And she asked, how does this lead to crime and the breakdown of the American dream? So this is a very complicated question, several parts to it, and let's break it down. The first topic that we're going to cover here is housing cost versus wages. And these two are necessarily linked to one another. First, let's talk about housing costs. In a free market, houses will not cost more than people can afford. It's necessary. This is because an empty house, it makes no money. That's just the basic concept of it. A house sitting there doesn't make any money, and it requires the homeowner to adjust the price accordingly. People are going to pay for it eventually. They just have to find the right price. So as far as wages, people will only do a job that benefits them. We can discuss a minimum wage, and believe me, I have discussed that to exhaustion, basically. But let's talk about the term living wage. This is a term that implies that you're making enough money to live off of your job. So I hear the left, they use this term all the time in the minimum wage debate. If a job doesn't pay enough for you to pay your bills, you're going to look elsewhere. This is a basic free market principle. People are not stupid. People, at least not when it comes for what is best for them. People look out for themselves. People may be uninformed about things that don't relate to them, but people are very informed about things that matter to them. So, if they need a $10 an hour job and they can only find a $9 an hour job, people are going to take whatever they can get immediately. But they'll keep looking for what they need. If they aren't marketable enough to get that $10 an hour, they'll either gain the work experience or the skills needed to earn more. And again, these are basic principles. And with that said, if the economy doesn't have enough jobs that will pay for the price of housing, then the price of housing will necessarily go down because these houses are just sitting there empty. And it costs money for these houses to sit there empty. So, of course, people who own the property that are trying to get rental properties out, trying to sell property, things like that, the price adjusts. It has to, because it costs them money just sitting there. They want to make money, so they adjust their price so that somebody will buy it. Eventually, it gets to the point where somebody will buy it. They just keep dropping and dropping and dropping. And we've seen that in the housing bubble crash. Prices for homes have basically, dramatically dropped. And now, I believe that they're just starting to get propped back up. But anyway, that's another conversation we'll get into. But let me talk about how this applies to crime and the American dream. At least this is my opinion. I think it shouldn't have an effect in a free market, all right, as far as the wages and housing costs. But the difference is I don't think that we're in a free market anymore. There's far too many outside influences right now. We used to have to work to eat. But when our founders first got here, if they did not work, they did not eat. In fact, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that's actually in the Bible. If a man does not work, a man does not eat. Maybe I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, everyone. But and this was even the case with immigration to the country. At the beginning of the country, back in Ellis Island and things like that as well, that if you did not work, you did not eat. Back when there was a big influx of Irish immigrating to the country and Europeans immigrating to the country and World War II immigrating to the country, if you did not work, you did not eat. There was no government assistance there that would. I mean, you can maybe wait in the bread lines, but there's a big difference between bread lines and welfare that we see today. Now the government will pay for your food, they'll pay for your cell phones, they'll pay for your health insurance, and so on and so forth. There's a huge difference than what it used to be. This dynamic of dependence has absolutely changed our society. And all of these programs, they could have an impact on crime rates, but I'd be speculating, and I don't know if there's any studies out there that would collaborate with what I'm saying. But for example, let's just make an example. For example, if I would think that an increased unemployment from minimum wage would cause a spike in crime rates. Now, as far as the American dream, let's discuss the American dream, because that may be different for everybody. But my American dream may be something different than your American dream. But I'm assuming that you're talking about owning a home or property ownership, something along those lines. And if that's the case, I think that property values will go up and down relative to the price of wages, like I said before. And I think it shouldn't have a severe impact on that, on the American dream. People could still own a home even if things are bad and people aren't getting paid too much or people are getting paid crazy amounts. I think that home ownership will still be there. The problem is that if the economy tanks and the real estate market tanks, and then we see that the stock market crashes because they're inflating it with the Fed and they're pumping all these this digitized money into the stock market. Those have different problems and different responses. People will react differently. The economy will react differently to these things. So if the U.S. dollar totally drops and it's not worth anything, then yes, the American dream is going to be very hard to maintain. You're going to have a hard time buying a home if it's in Chinese yuan or something. So anyway, let's actually discuss property ownership, though, in terms of the American dream. If that's your version of the American dream, then perhaps it may already be dead. We don't really own our property anymore, as I've said before. We are simply renting it from the government. We pay our rent yearly in property tax. You don't believe me? Well, try not paying your property tax and see if they don't come evict you from your rental property, because even though you think that you own it, you have the deed, it doesn't matter. The government owns it. If you truly own something, think about this. You would not have to pay anyone for the right to keep it once it's totally paid off. This is just basic here. If I'm selling you something and you have to continue paying me or someone else for that something, you don't really own that something, do you? You're still renting it. So, we're confined by a lot of regulations now. We have restrictions, and it's coming from the federal, state, and local governments. We have to talk about this because as far as what you can do with your property, you no longer have that freedom either. We have to ask for permission to build on our land. We own it. And we have to ask for permission from the county government or from the state government. In some situations, the federal government, the EPA, steps in and says, no, you can't dig that ditch. It's going to affect, the water table or something. These kind of things are happening every day. There was a guy who had a man-made pond on his property, and he was getting penalized from the EPA $75,000 a day for violating their ordinance. They basically had a regulation, and he was in violation of it. And every day this individual had this pond, they sent him a $75,000 bill, as in a check, not as in a $75,000 dollar bill. That'd be pretty awesome. But no, even a major corporation wouldn't be able to uphold that kind of cost. This is something that is devastating. Especially to an individual. So, we don't have permission to build on our own land or use it as we see fit. And this is just like when you're renting. You can't make alterations to your rental property without the consent of the landlord, and this is the exact same situation. So to answer that part of your question, Cindy, I will ask another question. Is the American dream of owning property dead? And, if it is, then what are we going to do about it? Anyway, we're moving on. I want to thank Cindy for her support and for getting on the move. Again, if you would like to ask your question, you can do so in several ways. I will answer it on the air, the best of my ability. You can send your question to talk@onthemoveshow.com. You can call us at 619-924-0986, and we can have a conversation about it. You can post your questions on our Facebook page, facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow, or you can tweet us at OnTheMoveShow and make sure that you include your hashtag AskMack so I can find you. Anyway, at this point, we're going to take another commercial break, and we will be right back with the Mack Attack. Don't go anywhere.
Support On the Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/onthemoveshow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
Broadcasting from deep within occupied territory on the far left coast. You're listening to On the Move with Mack Worley III.
All right, everybody, we are about to enter into the Mack Attack, and this is the segment of the show where I give you my take on outrageous events in the news. So if you would like to participate in the conversation, please give us a call. The number to the show is 619-924-0986, or you can email the show at talk@onthemoveshow.com. Today we're going to be talking about the border crisis. So we're beginning the next segment here.
It's time for the Mack Attack!
Okay, so what's going on down at the border right now? We have a flood of illegal immigrants that are coming across the border. They're creating a situation that could risk our health. We have diseases coming across the border, contagious diseases. The government's busing these illegals around the countries, and they're sending them to communities, to other communities that are further away from the border. They're actually shipping them all across the country now, and protests have actually popped up. They tried to stop these buses from entering their communities. According to Breitbart, as illegal immigrants continue to spill across the border, federal authorities are attempting to relocate migrants from South Texas to housing facilities in states across the nation. Across the nation. So they're sending them way out of Texas. All right. One such facility is located in Marietta, Florida, where a large group of protesters recently blocked a bus full of migrants from arriving. The protesters remained there, adamant that illegal immigrants don't get dumped into their town. But soon, the concerned citizens may be forced to step down. Breitbart, Texas has learned that federal agents plan to arrive in Marietta on Monday with riot gear to ensure that another busload makes it to the housing facility. So this is actually a little bit of an older story. I'm not even sure what's going on down there right now. They may have already pushed in. They may have pushed through. So I'm actually not as up to date on this story as I'd like to be. But as far as the concept, and I want to talk about what the left is saying. I want to talk about what these bleeding hearts are talking about, and their arguments for allowing these people into our country, allowing these people to stay in our country illegally. One argument is that we're a nation of immigrants. Right? We are, right? Everybody came from somewhere else. Well, I was born here. I know that a lot of you were born here, and I have nothing against disregard. I have nothing against immigration. I absolutely am against illegal immigration. So let me just start out here saying that our country has changed. The immigrants coming into this country now, they are not the same as the immigrants that statement, we are a nation of immigrants, is referring to. Firstly, this country was founded on legal immigration. Ellis Island, it didn't just accept anyone. There were people that were, of course, turned away. I have no issue at all with legal and selective immigration. We have a right to choose who comes into our country. We should bring in people who will benefit us and not mooch off of the system. We need to make sure that they have some kind of way to support themselves. If they're planning on coming here and they're planning on living off the taxpayer dimes, then we don't need them. That's just my opinion. And I think a lot of you may agree. This country is a lot different than it was back then as well. And as I said before, if you don't eat, you don't work. People work to survive. People had no choice. The government wasn't there to pay for everything that you could possibly need. And this just isn't the case now. The threat of starvation is a powerful motivator, and communities would come together. They would survive, they would thrive because they had that motivator there. If they did not work, they did not eat. And the fact is, we cannot have open borders while we have a welfare state right now. And we are currently living in a welfare state. For the record, I'm a fan of neither of these things. But it is a fact that our country cannot continue to exist if it has an open border and it uses taxpayer money to provide welfare to everyone. It's just simply unsustainable. It's also theft when you think about it. Taking from one person against their will and giving to somebody else is theft. Plain and simple. I don't care how you skin it. If somebody did not want to give you that money and you took it anyway through the coercive force of the government or any other force whatsoever, that's theft. It doesn't matter if the government doesn't. It doesn't matter because it's just a fact that it's theft. It doesn't change the facts. So I want to touch on some arguments that I heard last week, and I've been hearing over and over again. I've heard people say that, these immigrants are immigrating here and they're just looking for freedom and a better life. How can we deny people liberty? This, to me, this is a very emotional argument. And let's just discuss it for a second. First of all, we aren't denying anyone liberty. Liberty is about freedom of choice, and we aren't responsible for the entire world's freedom. We're not. We are one country. We're not the world's police. We are just one country. We are a sovereign nation. We are only responsible for our own interests. Everyone is born with the same liberties and rights, and it's not up to America to be the world police to make sure that those rights are being respected. Only an informed and active population can safeguard their own liberty, and that's not America's responsibility. We are not your saviors. We can help when we can, but we have the absolute right to choose not to help if we cannot, to be selective about the help that we give. What we're giving is charity, and that can't be coerced. Otherwise, that's a tax. And every nation on this planet has the right to choose who comes in and comes out of their country. And in fact, every nation on this planet enforces that right. There's no nation on the planet that just says, hey, you know what, everybody, come on in, and we're not going to have a say about it. If we want you out of here, we're not going to be able to deport you. Every single country on the planet can deport people if they choose, and they do. People, they also talk about the dangerous environment that these illegal immigrants are fleeing from, and that we need to have a heart. We need to really just, really have a heart and make sure that we're taking care of these people and letting them stay in our country. Well, let's take a look at what America has done before the border crisis, because this kind of stuff always fascinates me. I'm curious what was happening before the crisis at the border right now. The bottom line is that America has denied immigrants political asylum for decades, and that's what they would be applying for if they're trying to flee from dangerous environments. They're basically wanting to get political asylum through an illegal process, mind you. So they're coming in through the back door when we have our front door wide open for this process. If you want to come in and ask for political asylum, there are ways to go about doing it, but showing up here illegally, that's not one of those ways. And let's just look. A total of 58,179 persons were admitted to the United States as refugees during 2012. During 2012, only 29,484 of these individuals were granted asylum. 29,484. That means that in 2012, 28,695 people were denied asylum. We denied 28,000 people asylum. What kind of bleeding heart is that? We've been doing this forever. We've been doing this for decades. This is what we do. We choose. We have the right to choose who comes in this country. And we just told them no. The fact of the matter is we cannot let everyone in. And we have never just let anyone in. You know, we have that right. And like I said, no country in the world would give up that right. And the moment that you do, the floodgates will open. You're no longer talking about immigration. You're talking about invasion. This is what we're really talking about. And, you know, I like to bring things back to history. I am a big history buff. I do enjoy my history. So I'm sure you're all familiar with the saying, remember the Alamo, right? You guys all know what that saying is. Well, do you know the history behind it? And, I hope I don't make any of my Texas listeners angry here. I'm not giving my opinion here. I'm just reading the history, all right? Texas belonged to Mexico. I think a lot of people are aware of that. And Mexico invited us Americans into the area. They said, hey, we're not using all this land. Come on out here. You can use it with us too, okay? And I'm sure they had their reasons, and I don't know that side of it. But they didn't control who came in and came out. Mexico basically gave that up. They didn't have the ability, so they just said, hey, you know what? Americans are coming in anyway, and, you know, we can't control it. So, you know what? You guys can just come in. That's fine. And soon, Americans outnumbered the Mexicans 4-1. So the Mexicans responded with the illegal immigration. They started letting the Americans come in, and now they're outnumbered 4-1. And it wasn't long after that Americans looked around and said, hey, there's more of us here than there are Mexicans. This place must belong to us. Who are they to tell us what to do? So the Americans then took the Alamo, and the Mexican army responded by slaughtering the Americans held up in the fort. This is what led to the saying, remember the Alamo. But people forget everything that led up to that event. You know, anyway, like I said, this is not my opinion. This is just history. You know, these illegals flooding our border, they remember the history. They're saying things like, go back to Europe. And that they want to take back what is theirs. You know, they're trying to tell us to go back to Europe. First of all, I've never been to Europe. You know, at least I wasn't born there. And, you know, even if I was, I live here now. I'm a citizen. You know, I don't think that you know, somebody coming in violation of our law. Again, we are a nation of laws, not a nation of men. And, you know, with that said, I think that we should really be paying attention to what's going on with this. Now keep this in mind. You know, if you do not secure your borders and we just let everyone in, we're going to see the same thing that happened with the Alamo to us. It's going to happen. So one thing that I would like to mention as well, you know, is the argument that we can't afford to send all these people back. This is another argument that I'm hearing over and over, very repetitiously, I might add, that we cannot afford to send people back. What are we going to do? We're going to put them on buses and ship them back to Mexico? That's crazy. We're in a deficit right now. We have so many trillions of dollars in debt. That's true. That's absolutely true. But hey, we are already shipping them on buses and planes. The only thing is we're sending them in the wrong direction. Our government is now moving these illegals over the country. And let's also point out an oddity it's kind of been bothering me for a little bit, okay? We have buses available to ship illegals all over the country instead of out of the country, but we can't get buses for Hurricane Katrina. Does this make sense to anyone? When American lives are on the line, there's a breakdown. But when illegals flood the border, we got buses right away. We're making sure we're taking care of those illegals because they pay so much money in taxes. Oh, wait a second. No, they don't. But hey, we got buses anyway. You know, I have to point out the fact that there's also a word ban that's going on as well. And you all know how much I just love word bans. I just think that everybody should just be restricted on what they can say and think. And, oh, man, I'm a big fan of that. Well, we have now a movement where they're trying to ban the use of the word illegal. They're calling it the I word. They're saying that it's the equivalent to using the N word. Here's a clip.
This is CBS 7 News at 10. Your eye on West Texas.
We wouldn't use the N-word against anyone. We wouldn't call somebody, a wetback either. It's getting to the word illegals is really getting to that point.
A local organization wants everyone to stop using the word illegal when talking about immigrants.
Immigration is at the political forefront in Texas and at the national level, but now a local group wants the word illegal dropped from the discussion.
CBS 7's Bo Berman joins us now with a look at why they are now referred to illegal as the I word and wants you to do the same. Bo?
The Odessa group Una Voz Unida says the term illegal can be very offensive, almost like a racial slur, but another local group disagrees.
The term illegal immigrants has been used so much that it's often shortened to just illegals. Odessan Art Leal, president of civic advocacy organization Una Voz Unida, says that term unfairly categorizes certain people.
I've noticed the usage of the word illegals as being a very broad generalization of a group of people.
Una Voz Unida, or One Voice United, is signing on to a pledge to stop using the word illegal and get others to do the same with the Drop the I Word campaign.
It exposes racist tendencies behind the word in calling immigrants illegals.
The campaign is national, run by a magazine and the Applied Research Center, but not everyone is willing to jump aboard. In fact, Midland Tea Party director Mike Lopez strongly disagrees with the campaign.
If we allow them to first take the language away of it being illegal, it blurs the line. So how are we going to know if these people are legal if they're paying taxes and stuff like that?
Leal believes that immigrants who were brought to the U.S. against their will by their parents, exploited for cheap labor, or who've overstayed their visas should not all be lumped together. Whether the campaign catches on or not, he plans to spread the message as far as he can. He fears that if not, things will only get worse.
We wouldn't use the N-word against anyone. We wouldn't call somebody, a wetback either. It's getting to the word illegals is really getting to that point.
For more information on Una Voz Unida, the Drop the I Word campaign, or the Midland Tea Party, visit CBS7.com and click on this story. So reporting.
All right. So they're banning. They're trying to do the word ban again. Does anybody agree with acting like words don't exist? Does anyone agree that it's a good idea that we should restrict words from people's language? Of course, illegal immigrants want people to stop calling them that because they're illegal. They broke the law to get here, and now they want us to stop calling them what they are. I will not let them control the narrative. I will not stop saying illegal. In fact, this show is now brought to you by the letter I, as in illegal immigrants. I will not be told that I am a racist by such groups as La Raza, which means the race. If anyone is racist, it's these people. They're trying to tell Americans to go back to Europe. This is our country. We're not going anywhere. And I'm getting fed up with the bleeding hearts on the left trying to tell me that I should feel sorry for these people. These people want to come into my country illegally, ban what I have to say, and kick me out of the country that I was born in. I'm really frustrated. And I want to be clear. I am for legal immigration. In fact, I think that we need a better process of immigrating into our country. It is outrageous that immigrants take a decade to get into this country. It is outrageous, and something needs to be done about that. But anyway, we have some callers here. The lines are lighting up. I appreciate you guys calling, MacPack. And we have a first caller on the line. His name is John. I'm going to bring you on here. He's a combat veteran, and he wants to talk about the border. Are you there?
Yes, Matt. You added me a few days ago on Facebook because I'm a disabled combat vet, U.S. Navy, served 1999 to 2006.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your service.
I was in a special operations unit for my CDD tour, and I get to visit roughly 32 nations on this planet. So I've got I'm well traveled to say,
Yes, sir.
Well, my point is, I make a middle-class paycheck at what I do. And I get hit at 30% withholding by the IRS because I'm single and I have no dependents.
Mm-hmm.
The issue with the VA, I've had my own benefits changed around, manipulated, even the education benefits. I see people, Americans, struggling, starving every day because I'm a field service technician. And our president wants how many billions? Like $3.7 billion to provide care for people who has done nothing for us, while our own people starve, sleeps on the streets. And even take that even further, I want to narrow it down just to veterans. We're housing illegals on U.S. military bases. Well, you got veterans out there starving, freezing, and sleeping.
Yes, sir.
Tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I heard a story.
Makes me very angry.
I believe me, I can understand, and I definitely understand where you're coming from. I heard a story that there was a veteran that actually died in a VA hospital because it took 30 minutes for an ambulance to get there. 30 minutes. He was in the hospital, and because they had a policy in place where they couldn't touch him, they waited 30 minutes for an ambulance to get there, and this man died in a VA hospital. To me, this is exactly, it goes to what you're talking about. We're treating our veterans like crap. We're treating our citizens like crap, and we're basically opening the door for more illegals to come in. My issue is not immigration. It's illegal immigration. And we need to...
I have a unique viewpoint on that. I'm a
Yes,
first-generation American. I'm half Korean, and the rest of me is like ready American. I'm a mutt. My mom came over. As a single mom, I remember her studying, going to school, and working full-time to care for us. And
Yes,
she
sir.
passed the citizenship test, and she did everything right. These people can come across the border, and all of a sudden they're granted amnesty without doing nothing. I've spent blood, sweat, and tears in this nation, not for those fuckers that come across the border. And I'm sorry about my French, but that's how I feel.
And I don't blame you, man. I don't blame you. It does really frustrate me. There's so much going on here, so much injustice in our country. I think that there's a lot more that we could do for ourselves. We need to focus more on our country as well. Stop spending so much in foreign aid, things like that. Our veterans are some of the greatest people I've ever met, and I'm not even including myself in that lump. I served in the military. I'm just saying the people that I have met that have served their country, they've sacrificed so much, and I think that we should take care of them. Obviously, we have a lot of issues as well going on in our country as far as unemployment and people who need help. I think it's important that we have things that people can go to get help from. But my issue is government mandated things where they're stealing from people to give to other people. I believe in charity and I believe in goodwill, and I think that even with these people on the border here, these people illegally coming into the country, and they need help, they need health care, they need food and water. I have no problem with that. Feed them, clothe them, make sure they're healthy, put them back on the bus, and send them away. If they want to come back, they can do it the right way. And I got a lot of respect for your mom. Your mom came in and studied and did things the right way. I mean, these are the people right here that need to be speaking out. Is the people who actually did come into this country the right way. I have a lot of respect for your mom, and thank you so much for calling in, John. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. And another thing, you got these illegals flooding the border, and we live in kind of a police state with the TSA and the Department of Homeland Security. Any terrorist group with any sense is watching this on the news, and they're mobilizing resources to exploit this because their southern border isn't secure. I mean, if all these people flooding across the border, they're turning themselves in. They don't have enough manpower down here to control that.
Yes, sir.
So the want to sneak through, they're going to sneak through.
Exactly. And this actually leads us to another point here, and this is actually in the title of today's show. It's the Cloward and Piven strategy. And this is actually something that I would like to discuss here for a moment. I see we have some other callers, and I'm going to get to you guys here in a moment. But let me talk about this strategy here. And John, he touched on a good point, and thanks again for calling in, John. I am of the opinion that we're seeing the use of the Cloward and Piven strategy right now overwhelm the system, and then you can basically change it in whatever way that you want. You can overwhelm your system and create it in the way that you would like. We are seeing this now. Who is paying for the flyers that are going out in Mexico and these other countries where people are coming in here? There's flyers that are going out to people and telling them that they can come here, and they need to do it before June, is what some of these flyers had said, and that they will get amnesty. Now is the time for them to come in. Who's paying for these? Who's sending out the flyers? Where is this information coming from? Is it coming from the cartel? It's very possible that it's coming from cartels, and they could be using the Cloward and Piven strategy of overwhelming the system. But could it be coming from the Obama administration? Could it be coming from somebody in America? Could it be something that is on our side of the border that's happening to encourage these people coming in? I'm very concerned about this. I think that we are now looking in one direction, and who knows what's happening in all these areas where we pulled our border security to go deal with this humanitarian crisis. Now, I guarantee you there's drugs, guns, more people coming in. Who are they? Activity is happening at our border. We don't know, because we've pulled our resources. We're looking over here, and something's happening over there. Anyway, we have another caller on the line here. I got Christian on the line. He wants to make some comments about illegals. Go for it, Christian. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mac. How you doing today? Another thing, too, that I noticed is, as you know, I'm also in the military. And as you know, I received a letter saying that my service is no longer needed in the military since budget cuts. And here I'm looking at illegals, because honestly, that's not a bad word, because you broke the law, you become an illegal, no matter what you do. And you got buses going, example, to Lackland Air Force Base. You got buses going into Navy bases right here in California. But you got money for illegals, but you don't have money for the actual people that are fighting to keep bad things happening to this country. So for me, I get aggravated at that, because here they're telling me they don't have money to support my mission, but they have money to give to people that broke the law.
Exactly. Yeah. I can definitely understand where you're coming from, man. It doesn't seem right. And you know, to get that pink slip from the military after you've served your country. I mean, you've fought for this country. I know you personally. I know you deployed. Because we've talked about it before, and just to get a pink slip, while at the same time they're doing this down at the border, it has to be pretty insulting, and I can definitely understand where you're coming from, man. So, what are your thoughts on what we should be doing down there right now?
First, it goes. Yesterday we were talking about this on the radio show. Also, it's perfectly for me. One, you have to take care of the people that are already here. Yes, they're illegal, but as a Christian, you still have to take care of those people coming here, even they're illegal or not. Two, you have to enforce the border, no matter what, however it costs, because obviously we have enough money to send them to New York, send them to other states. So why not funnel that money to the border, send those extra border patrols? Obviously, I saw at USA Jobs, they are looking for border patrol. And then number 3 is send them all back. Do not give them a piece of paper, tell them that you have to come back in a year for your court date. It doesn't work like that. 1, take care of them. 2, secure the border. because obviously there's money somewhere because they just asked for billions of dollars for the human crisis that they got going on and send them all back. And we have to fix everything that started, not with Obama, but with Bush and all that, all the past president that literally has just passed down the problem to president. It's time just to honestly, at this point, since they're calling it a crisis, then why not send the National Guard to the border?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Like the governor's down again.
Yeah, the governor Rick Perry, he's already trying to get that, and our president says, I'll consider it, but you got to give me everything I want first. Anyway, I appreciate you calling in, Christian. We're going to cut to a quick commercial break. I see callers in the queue. I will get to you guys, I promise. We're going to take our last commercial break, and then I'll be back more with your calls, so don't go anywhere.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/onthemoveshow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
And we're back. I appreciate you all sticking with us. And we have another caller on the line. We got Andrew, and he would like to make some comments as well. What's on your mind, Andrew?
Hey, Mac, this is a big thing with me with immigration, especially since, we witnessed it firsthand a couple of years ago. It's not just Hispanics coming through. We encountered a couple that were actually of, guessing, Pakistani or possibly Lebanese descent with a Spanish accent. I remember they spoke Spanish, but not really fluently. They're given, there's been documentaries where they exploit how they're doing this. It's not like John has said. Terrorists are starting to come through. They've been coming through. This is a weakness that they've seen years ago. Except now it's being made even easier for them to come through. They're taught Spanish, the fundamentals of Spanish that they need, and once they've learned their Spanish, then they take on a Spanish name and come across as an illegal and exploit our laws. And there's so many directions I can go, so I'll try to stay focused. But I know you're running out of time. But back to the $3.7 billion. I don't think anybody can grasp. We don't really grasp just how much money that is. With that amount of money, that same amount could be used to send everyone that's recently crossed, these children, families, whatever have you, back across, escorted back into their countries if we needed to. I mean, we're to send them all over to the U.S., but send them all back. And then they would even let's give them some, we're going to be giving them a lot here anyway, more than $3.7 billion as the years go by. But we could set them off with food for several weeks to get by. I mean, they didn't have it before they came, or, they wouldn't have had what we were given before they came. So I don't see that to be such a big issue. That $3.7 billion that Perry's only asking for National Guard to be deployed and Predator drones. Obama says it's all or nothing, my way or the highway. That he wants this $3.7 billion. I highly doubt it's going to go for all these immigrants that have come over. That's a large sum of money.
Exactly. Yeah, and thanks for calling in, Andrew. As far as that money, I just, it's kind of laughable to me when people say, "Oh, we can't afford to send them back to Mexico. Are you crazy? That's a lot of money." Well, we're sending them to New York right now. That is a lot of money in gas that we could save just sending them back where they came from. That's not that far. Hey, we met them at the border. Let's drive them right back across. It's not that complicated. Now, as far as the humanitarian side of it, I absolutely agree with you, Andrew, on this, because as far as the the clothing, feeding them, making sure that they're medically okay for the trip, giving them food on the bus. All of these things, I don't think any American out there would really have that big of an issue as long as we sent them back. Send them back. I don't think that's that hard to do. And you know what? I gotta touch on another argument here that I've heard, and even I've been guilty of saying it in the past. Immigrants do the jobs that Americans won't do, but this topic is actually a little deceptive. The way that this is structured is a little deceptive, and let me discuss this for a second here. A better version, I think, would be illegal immigrants do the jobs that Americans can't do. And I put the word illegal in there. So why is that? Well, because illegal immigrants, they'll work for less than minimum wage in unskilled labor positions. Illegal immigrants will also work in harsh conditions that the government nanny state would never allow us Americans to work in. The argument that if we make these illegal immigrants citizens by giving them amnesty, and that they're all going to continue to do these kind of jobs is false. It's just not true. It's a lie. They will find better jobs because now they are able to. The answer isn't making them citizens. The answer is cracking down on employers who hire these illegals. If they can't hire the illegals, they'll hire Americans, and boom, we have more American jobs. More taxpayers are now paying tax money. I don't think that Americans won't pick fruit. I don't think that Americans won't do unskilled labor positions. I don't think that Americans there's one job out there that Americans won't do. I think that Americans will do jobs. But the thing about it is that they can't. They're not able to accept a job for $5 an hour. There's such thing as a minimum wage that prevents them. And again, I hope that you all stay very vigilant with watching the situation at the border. There's going to be a lot of sleight of hand going on, and I do believe that the Cloward and Piven strategy is in effect right now. Overwhelm the system, take control. And I'm curious what you guys have to say about this. If you guys would like to email us for the next show, you can at talk@onthemoveshow.com. You can give us your take on it. I will read your information on the air as far as your opinion. And anyway, we have the last segment of the show, and we like to call this the Listener Challenge. So here it is.
I challenge you to a duel. Did you hear that? Sounds like it's time for a challenge. Listener challenge. Listener challenge. Listener challenge. Listener challenge.
All right, this is a segment of the show where I challenge you, our listeners, to a challenge. I guess that's I challenge you to a challenge. Anyway, your mission, if you choose to accept it today, is to email your representatives and let them know what you think about Common Core. I know we were talking about this earlier. It got me all fired up. So if you think that we should be able to teach our children, what we want at the local community level, then let your representative know. If you disagree with Common Core and the fact that a federal mandate can tell people as a standard what they're required to teach your children, and you don't think that's a good idea, let your representative know. Ask them where they stand on the issue, and don't let them dodge the question. Don't let them get away without stating their position on Common Core. And when you get an answer from them, send your responses to talk@onthemoveshow.com, and we will post it on our Facebook for everyone to see. And that is this week's challenge. Stand up, speak out, and get on the move. And anyway, we don't have time to get to the Weekly Defender today, unfortunately. I do apologize. We will have to get to that next week. And I want to thank all of you, our listeners, for calling in today. I also want to thank our special guest, Chair of the Libertarian Party of Sacramento County, Cindy Beyonde Gobrecht. Check out our book. You can check it out on our website, onthemoveshow.com, in our shop area right there. Don't forget to follow us here at blogtalkradio.com/onthemoveshow, facebook.com/onthemoveshow, youtube.com/onthemoveshow, twitter.com/onthemoveshow. And as always, know your rights, assert your rights, get on the move.